chapter 19. Faithful, Adam, Moses, and of course Christian, right? Right? Those are the main ones. Faithful. Christian catches up to faithful, right? And then faithful gives them the 411 on what's happening in the city of destruction, right? That's how that works. And it goes through, faithful's very happy for the company, or Christian's very happy for the company. And didn't really like the separation, but that's the way it was. That's the way it is. And let's see, we got down to where Christian was talking about, he says, and what said the neighbors of him? So let's just back up a step. Yes, Christian, I heard that he followed you till he came to the slough of despond. Whereas some said he fell in, but he would not be known to have so done, but I am sure he was soundly bedabbled with that kind of dirt. It's kind of an interesting word. That's not one you use every day, bedabbled. Basically covered with, I think. And what said the neighbors of him? And then you hear faithful start. Well, he has since his going back been had greatly in derision. And that among all sorts of people, some do mock and despise him and scarce will set him on work, and he is now 7 times worse than he had been had he never gone out of the city. Isn't this the way it works when you're thrown out of the herd? Right? Or if you challenge the herd mentality. This is what we talk about this. You hear the word talk about this. You see it most on, or rather you see it obviously on people who are in the news, people who are in the spotlight. And once they come out and say, well, no, you folks that think that transgenderism is a real thing, you're lying to yourselves and you're lying to others. It's just not real. A man will never become a woman. Period. End of discussion. There is nothing to talk about. You can mutilate somebody, but mutilation, last time I checked, it doesn't make somebody they're not. It just mutilates them. That's all it does. But if you come out and say that, oh, well, we're not buying your records. You don't get any more movie deals. You're going to get traded from this sports team. You're not going to make the All-Star game. Whatever it is, it is. And we see it most there because it's so obvious. And probably a lot of us, we run in circles where there's not a lot of, I hate to use a label, but I'm going to just because that we don't have to develop the whole definition. And a liberal, and I'm going to say specifically a leftist liberal. Liberals, I have no problem with a liberal who wants to engage in dialogue and conversation. A healthy dialogue, well, I think this is, okay, I think that's fine. But a leftist liberal is one that, as soon as they recognize that the argument is lost, they resort to name-calling and accusations and innuendo and trying to distort the truth, either past, present, and future, and usually all at the same time. Why? Because that is Satan's nature, to cause chaos. Right? That's what he's all about. I came to steal, kill, and destroy. It's all about chaos for him. It's interesting that Islam is waiting for their Mahdi, who is going to come when there's a significant enough amount of chaos. That is what they're waiting for. So it's no surprise to me. I saw this post the other day, and it was all of these horrific things, and then it would list it, who was it done by? Muslims, all the way down, blah, 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 100% on the list. It's like, yep, I see that. I get that. That's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. It's not that believers aren't subject to a fleshly passion and in the heat of the moment make a mistake. That's true too. But it's not the same, right? It's just not the same. So he's saying, these people are like they hate me. That's what they do. Let's get our Bibles out. So Matthew 12, 43 to 45, Miss Sue. Amy Baby, Jeremiah 29, 18, and 19. Miss Gaby, Proverbs 26, 11, and 12. Miss Carmen, 2 Peter 2, 22. Kira, Genesis 39, 11 through 13. And then Jazzy, Proverbs 22, 14. Now, while you guys are turning there, I want to go off topic here for a second. David hit me up with it before we left the back of the car, before we left the back of the truck. How many of you are aware of Pastor Spelling and the situation that happened down in Louisiana? Red? That's it? Nobody else? Charles? So this pastor crosses the street and beats up his neighbor. The whole backstory is the neighbor was threatening to kill his wife and rape his kids, and next time he goes out of town, that's it. Yeah. Laying hands on him, that's the idea? Okay. So as a pastor, I'm a lot of my feed is just that. It's pastor stuff. So every other story is on this. Everybody. And I mean, I have never seen so much interest. We're talking 500, 1,000 comments on every post. And it's literally every other post. And there's that many people invested in this situation. I'm surprised he hasn't been interviewed. And maybe he has because I don't watch TV. And be on TV or Fox News or something like that or stuff. I'm surprised that hasn't happened. I'm sure they've tried to. He's probably resisted on the whole thing. But there's two ways to, like everything else. When I read these posts, it's the same thing. Some are like, well, yeah, the past, we've got to, provide, protect. The Bible tells us we don't, who that does not provide for his own is worse than an infidel, it tells us. And of course, they'll expand the whole idea of providing is providing not just food, but protection, which is completely reasonable. I have no problem with expanding understanding the definition to that. So I wanted to go ahead and just put it out before you is, what I have my ideas about it. This 20-year-old fella on his property across the street from the church. Pastor lives on the church property in the parsonage, I believe. And that's the scene. You see, if you've seen the video, what you see is him the pastor crossing the street, and this guy starting to take a swing at him, and he's completely incapable. He's got his phone, and so he's trying to protect his phone, and so it's just the whole thing is crazy. But the pastor puts a beating on him. I mean, he doesn't just hit him and knock him down. I mean, he just keeps going. I think they said after he knocked him down, he punched him 27 more times while he was down. So this is, you could see where he would hold up, pastor would hold up for a second, and then he would start again. It's kind of like, this is, So what do we think? How does someone respond to that? Anybody? So, all right, I'll tell you what I think. On the one hand, husband, father, grandfather, go get them. I understand the the energy that was created in that whole environment, and what precipitated it, and how horrible that image is, and then going ahead to go take care of it. But then the other side of me, the Christian side of me, says, wait just a minute. I seem to remember Christ going to the cross for this whole thing. I seem to remember every single apostle dealing with these kinds of things. I seem to remember there's a great deal of persecution afforded to Christians, so much that we're warned, they hate me, they're going to hate you. We're going to have to bear with these kinds of things. And so I'm betwixt in the whole thing. In my fleshly, manly side, it would be, yeah, I'm going to go get you before you get me. But that doesn't even register with the law here. I mean, is a threat, a verbal threat, an assault. And I believe legally, at some level, it does fit the description, because I looked it up in my desire to have some peace with this whole situation, because it just keeps coming up. I was like, okay, I got to make my decision now on my convictions, because I'm sure I'm going to keep running into it. I mean, and so and they went ahead and the police even said, yeah, he's reported this kind of behavior in the past for this guy. So this is not the first time. The pastor did. Now the chief of police out there is kind of trying to get as far away from this as he possibly can, because this is not going to end well. It doesn't matter. Half the people are going to go crazy nuts because it happened, and half the people are going to go crazy nuts because the police didn't do anything. The police should have taken care of this, so it never got this far. You could just see how the police are just trying to distance themselves from the whole thing. And I get it. They'll never, that's not going to happen. This guy's probably going to have a problem. It's going to take a little while for the heat to bear down and just the initial craziness, I think, to go away. But don't be surprised then if this guy's forced out, this chief of police here. And arguably, that's probably a good thing, because, yeah, the police should have done something. If it's on the books as a law that, if you start threatening people's lives, that's an assault, and you should go ahead and have to bear the consequences, and the police, even after they're notified, don't do anything about it, well, that's a problem. That's a problem. And when my wife and I were reviewing the whole thing, and she's, she understands some of the more fine-tooth things on regarding the law that I haven't studied that she has, and she's like, hey, he should have been arrested already. Should have never happened. Well, now he's the guy who's still out free, and the pastor gets arrested and had to bond out, and he's charged. He's got charges pending, and, it's given the fact that he's a pastor, they might not, pursue it hard, but then the opposite is, given that he's pastor, they might pursue it doubly hard to make an example out of him. This same pastor was in trouble during the COVID because he came out and said, no, we're not doing that. And he was prosecuted. In fact, if I understand the story right, he had to wear an ankle bracelet for several years afterwards. So this guy has, he has strong convictions, obviously. And I'm not trying to go and tell him how he needs to live his life. But obviously he has strong convictions on the whole thing. So now, the fact that the pastor crossed the street, that he decided in his mind, I'm going to go over there and confront this guy, speaks of a premeditated effort in my book to say, I'm going to go over there. And my sense would be knowing that he's going to cause trouble, or hoping that something was going to happen so that he could do exactly what he did. And there's nothing right about that. We can't go ahead and make that sugar-coated to go ahead and decide, well, I'm going to go over there to hopefully stir the pot up enough so that this guy will do something. I mean, he was going over onto the other guy's property. So when the news, of course, on the pasture blogs are, look, the other guy sprang first. Yeah, well, if someone went onto your property, you have a right to defend yourself on your property. Of course he did. That's what should happen. If someone comes out of your, that's perfectly acceptable. But of course, all of the ones that are coming from the pasture side, and it's like 60-40. 40% are saying, no, this he doesn't get the message. He just doesn't get the message. And the other 60% are saying, what, are you crazy? You people are blah, 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 blah. They're worse than the news, blaming the other half of the pastors, or 40% of the pastors are saying, no, this is not right. Should not be said and done this way. And then, of course, the other 60% are calling the 40% all kinds of names and saying, oh, what's wrong? It's like, this is not a good example. This is not a very good Christ-like example. So it's a tough one. You'll probably see it more. Even my wife said, because I asked her, I said, have you been following that? She's like, I haven't even seen that in my feeds. Because, you know how the algorithms work. They know who you are. They know what you look at. So for me, it's building, sports, food, and pastor. That's what my feed tells me all the time. That's pretty much what it does. And occasionally vacations. But that's it. My wife's are more politics. Her feeds are generally political. But we have this real life situation where the church is going to be divided on this whole thing in terms of how we should go ahead and take that. And it kind of fits in here where he's going back to the city of destruction, and they're like, no, you're not on. Not only do we not like you, we're going to make it more difficult for you, even though you came back. Because we want to make sure that no one else thinks they can do this. No one else should think they could leave us, herd mentality, to go to the other side and then think they could come back and everything's going to be fine. No, we're going to put a licking on you. And that's what we see. That's what you see. All right, Matthew 12, 43 to 45.
I had 12, and then I thought, no, I think he said 13.
I don't know. I'm thinking 12. I wrote down 12.
You probably
So
said
when I read it,
my hearing didn't hear it. All right, 43 to 45. When the unclean spirit is gone out of a man, he walketh through dry places, seeking rest and finding none. Then he saith, I will return into my house from whence I came out. And when he is come, he findeth it empty, swept, and garnished. Then goeth he and taketh with himself 7 other spirits more wicked than himself, and they enter in and dwell there. And the last state of that man is worse than the first. Even so shall it be also unto this wicked generation.
all right, so faithful, and we can see the quote here, the very last line of this piece. He says, he is now 7 times worse than if he had never gone out of the city. Well, that's the idea. Going out and coming back and pretending, it just makes it worse. It just makes it worse, and that's the idea. And then, of course, Christian, but why should they be so set against him, since they also despise the way that he forsook? It doesn't matter which way he went. They don't like that either. They don't like, the world doesn't like us. So part of us, so for those that come out of us and go back to the world, they don't like them either. Because the world just doesn't like anything. It doesn't know of the love of God, right? It doesn't understand that. It does not understand any of that. There's a sense, I wrote down in my notes here, a sense of superiority. And I think that's common among the world. There's a sense of superiority. And the reason why I know that is because I thought that. It's not been that long. 26 years, not that long to be saved and have everything that I used to think all of a sudden evaporate from my mind. No, I still, I thought that Christians were simpletons. I thought that Bible believers were ignorant. And I think the Lord has a great sense of humor on the whole thing. Because here it is, I'm the one that has to confess that and stand in front as said simpleton. And now I cheer for that. But that was me. I don't have any problem understanding this. And I think if you're at all honest, you might not have been, quite so verbose about the whole thing. But there was probably, there's a bunch of Christians, I think I'll walk on the other side of the street. Just so I don't have to engage. There's some of that. And if you've been out handing out tracts at all, man, I can't tell you how many times I've seen that. I've taken to not carrying my Bible. I used to always carry my Bible everywhere. I've taken to, when I'm handing out tracts, not carrying my Bible. I try to just keep the tracts. And I don't know, I guess the Lord will judge me on that. The tracts have the gospel. The tracts have everything I need, and everything else is up in here. So I feel comfortable, adequate, that I can engage. Because people instantly respond. I did too. So I know this is true. Now, sometimes I carry my Bible on purpose. If I'm going somewhere, the hospital, the Bible opens doors. The Bible allows me to stand in places that I wouldn't be able to stand and get into places that I wouldn't be able to get in. Why? Because I have the Bible. Now I have this little red badge that they gave me. They gave me my own credentials at the hospital. In fact, it even opens the doors, literally. I can go ahead, how there's the doors there with the things, and you got to press and they go, oh, hello, what are you doing? I could just, they open the doors. It opens the doors. So it took a while, and then someone said, well, you're in here all the time. Why don't you go talk to her and see about it? And I went and talked to her, and she did it right there on the spot. Well, we're so happy. We're so thankful that you do what you do. And they had the whole process already set up. So I'm not the only guy. There's other folks that get into the hospital, a bunch. And they know that because they log you in every time, right? They know exactly who you are when you come. So they have all that. But it could get worse, I guess. Back to this here. It could be worse for those that are trying to turn back. Who's got Jeremiah 29? Go ahead, let's hear it. 18 and 19.
And I will persecute them with the sword, with famine, and with the pestilence, and will deliver them to be removed to all kingdoms of the earth, to be a curse, and an astonishment, and a hissing, and a reproach among the nations whither I have driven them. Because they have not hearkened to my words, saith the Lord, which I sent unto them, by my servants and the prophets, rising up early and sending them, but ye would not hear, saith the Lord.
All right, so faithful, right after this, he says, they say, hang him, he's a turncoat. He was not true to his profession, meaning them. It says, I think God has stirred up even his enemies to hiss at him. Exactly what we just heard, right? This must have been, since Bunyan put this in his notes, this is exactly what he was thinking, right? That his enemies will hiss at him and make him a proverb or an object of scorn. We think of a proverb as a short statement relaying wisdom. But in my notes here from Answers in Genesis, they have a definition. A name, a person, a thing that has become an object of scorn or derision is the definition here. Because he has forsaken the way, because he left the way. Because he had left the way. Christian, of course, had you no talk with him before you came out? Well, I met him once in the streets, but he leered away on the other side as one ashamed of what he had done. So I spake not of him. All right, Proverbs 26:11 and 12.
As a dog returneth to his vomit, so a fool returneth to his father. Seest thou a man wise in his own conceit? There is more hope for a fool than for him.
All right, so if you read through what Christian says next, and I'm going to skip all the way down to the bottom there, he says, the dog is turned to his vomit again, and the sow that was washed to her wallowing in the mire. So this is not something that God is, he's trying to go ahead and make sure that we understand that this is something to be expected. This is something that's going to happen. And then faithful, these are the fears of him too, but who can hinder that which will be? So 2 Peter 2:22, lots of twos.
But it is happened unto them according to the true proverb. The dog is turned to his own vomit again, and
The sow.
that was washed to her wallowing in the mire.
So he's quoting Proverbs, the Proverbs we just read, right? Peter is quoting that proverb, bringing it in that we see here. And then Christian, well, neighbor faithful, said Christian, let us leave him and talk of things that more immediately concern ourselves. Okay, I'm caught up. Now tell me. Tell me now what you have met with in the way as you came, for I know you have met with some things, or else it may be writ for a wonder. So what have you experienced so far in your journey? We do this all the time, right? We go ahead. Hey, what happened to you? We share our testimonies. What? God working in and through you? That's what we do. We go ahead and in a testimony time, we give a witness, right? That's the whole idea, give a witness. And that's what Faithful's saying, hey, what's going on? What's your witness? And look at what he says here. I escaped the slough that I perceived you fell into and got up to the gate without that danger, only I met with one whose name was Wanton, that he had like to have done me mischief. I love these names. I still love these names as we go over here, how these characters are reflective of the names that are given. And I've got all kinds of notes here. Christian goes on and he says, it was well you escaped her net. Joseph was hard put to it by her, and he escaped her, as you did, but it had like to have him cost his life. But what did she do to you? Tell me, how did Wanton try to get a hold of you? Let's read the story about Joseph in Genesis 11 through 13. Who's got that one? Okay, Kira. All right, so we all know the story of Joseph just trying to do his job. This is the classic place of being at the wrong place at the wrong time, not knowing what the situation was about, how the situation was about to unfold, and he gets caught up. And he gets caught up in this whole thing. wanton. And it's interesting how, I don't know if you noticed, but this is all the way through here. He's made it her, right? It's her, she, all the way down through these next verses. It's her, she, her, she, her, she. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 times in just the next half a page. Which I probably ought not to go there, but it's just kind of interesting. So much so that I underlined it after I started recognizing, that's a lot of this, and then going back. But let's just talk about this. He's got a question in here. Let me go back and find it. All right, lust is a stronghold in the lives of many people, including Christians today. What lessons can we learn from Joseph? Genesis 39:6-3. Job. Who's next? Jake. Grab Job 31:1. And then the last one is Colossians 3:1-17. And it just talks about Paul. Erica, why don't you turn there? We'll probably just have you read the first verse just to jog our memories. Colossians 3 in verse 1. So, we just read through Genesis 39. What lesson can we draw from Joseph? Well, what did Joseph do in the situation he found himself in? He fled. He fled. And he fled because he refused to put himself in any more of a compromised position. Right? He was already compromised because he was in there alone with another man's wife. He was already compromised. Today, it's verses like this that give pastors a heart attack. That's just the way it is. And I'm thankful for my wife. Hey, I got to go visit so-and-so. You want to come with me? If it's a woman, I don't go by myself. I generally, if someone asks for a ride, it's rare that I'll give a woman a ride. Certainly not by myself. Hey, yeah, let me see who's, not to make a deal out of it. Not because there's an issue. It's just to avoid all appearance of evil. I don't want to have to fled. I don't want to have to refuse to put myself. I just, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? So the saying goes. If you just go ahead and plan, and how you plan and how you think, and so this has served me well over the years. And I never thought about that as an unsaved man, never once. It wasn't until reading the Bible and learning, because you would, when you're a fool, right? That's what a lack of wisdom when you're not saved. That's what that would be called. You can't even understand the lesson. You can't understand the lesson. All right, Job 31. Jake, 31:1.
I made a covenant with mine eyes. Why then should I think upon it made?
So what is Job saying here? Is a covenant a contract? Miss Gaby, you immediately responded.
A covenant is a contract.
It's a contract. Who's involved with that contract?
You and God.
Yeah, see, a covenant to me, and I figured that's where you were going. A covenant to me is actually something even above a contract because it involves God. Contracts, we're in a contract. Charles, I want you to sheetrock a house. I'll pay you $87.50. All right, yes. In the contract, it's going to say, if you fail to do this, I can do this. It's going to have remedies It's going to have solutions to problems. In a covenant, there isn't any of that. It's you and God, and that's it. There's no remedies. There's none of these kinds of things in a covenant. Just like in a marriage covenant. Malachi talks about the covenant of your wife. There's no remedies with this whole thing. So Job, he's made a decision that he is not going to look lustfully upon a girl. He's made a decision ahead of time, right? In other words, he's prepared himself. It's not that, and we're right at the seventh commandment, right? So we are right there, and I've been studying it for weeks because we had just have, and then I'm going to keep studying it because I'm not preaching it today either, and I'm not. Hopefully, you'll get a preach because I'm getting tired of studying this one, because of the nature of the whole thing, and I want to move on past the whole concept of adultery. Because it brings in divorce and it brings in all kinds of complicated situations that they suck the life out of you, right? Some of these things that hurt you, and they hurt people that you know, which means you get hurt more because you care about people and these difficult situations that they're either enduring or have had to endure. And Job is just saying, no, I'm just not going to even go there. I'm just not even going to look. And that's a good thing for us. I remember hearing a message when I was serving at PCC, and it was a preacher boy. And he preached about making it this covenant with his eyes. And I thought, well, that's pretty good. Now, at that point, even though I might have had a big job at PCC, I was a baby in the Lord. It's only been saved a couple of years. So I really was, and I thought, wow, that's incredible. And it's this 21-year-old with spiritual discernment, being able to understand scriptures. And I thought, wow, that's really great. That God would go ahead and use him, especially to help me. So just as Joseph refused to put himself there, Job refuses to put himself there. Paul, in Colossians 3:1.
If ye then be risen with Christ, seek those things which are above, where Christ is on the right hand of God.
All right, so that about sums it up. Focus on the things of the Lord. If you're busy focusing on the things of the Lord, are you busy focusing on things that are not of the Lord? No. It's just, if the more time you spend thinking about the Lord, the less time you have, period, to think on these other things. So focus on things of the Lord. Paul is talking about meditating on the Word. He's talking about putting off your old fleshly nature. Focus on things of the Lord. And I think that drove both of these two before him, both Joseph and Job. Focus on things of the Lord. And I believe that's what Bunyan is talking about. As he develops this whole wanton, and I don't want to read through the whole thing, but promises all kinds of stuff, fleshly desires to be satisfied. You could turn away from the path you're on. It's no problem. Close your eyes. You don't have to worry about seeing, just everything all the way down through here. And then at the end, railed because he wouldn't participate. That's what the world does. That's what the world does. Come on, you can be with us. Oh, no, I don't want to be. No, I don't want to do that. What's wrong with you? And then they rail on you. They rail on you. So on the same token, none of us like to. We all want to fit in at some level. We all want to be validated at some level. It's just a question of recognizing who we want to be validated by, who we want to fit in with. And it's hard breaking away from the world if you're still of the world. even if your family's going to church and you're like, well, I want to fit in. I want to fit in. I see these kids that'll say they're Christians at school, and they have a hard time. And I don't know whether they're Christians or not, obviously. They don't come with a little sticker on them. So it is a hard thing. So we see this. I see it there. And you know what? I'm not a fool. I know that some of us might feel the same way. Maybe that aren't saved and I can't fit in and I'm worried. Because once you get saved, you're less worried about fitting in, aren't you? I mean, when I got saved, I didn't give it a thought that people weren't going to like me. I didn't give it a thought that people were going to refuse this experience that I had. I thought everybody that I know is going to get saved. How is that for being naive? How is that? It never dawned on me that that someone was going to reject what I was going to tell them about. Surely they're going to believe me. Well, that's not the case. That's, as many of you know, especially if you get saved as an older person. All of our friends at 35 were like us, 30s, 40s. People we hung around with, people we went on vacation with, people, we did things with. They're all our age, all unsaved. So they didn't go ahead, outside of one very dear friend, my wife's roommate before I became her roommate through marriage, right? She went from having Amy Taylor as her roommate in college, and we got married that summer and got married. And so then I was her roommate and have been, but she came over to church several years later. We both had a couple kids, they had a couple, and she got saved. And to my knowledge, I don't know of anybody else. And then we spent years with them when we were up there, going on vacations and doing things, and because now they were, they were our people, and all those others that I thought were, they're not our people. They're not our people. Would they take us back? I don't know. I guess we'll never know because it's not, I have no interest in going back. All right. Proverbs 22:14. Did we read that one?
No, I'll read it. The mouth of strange women is a deep pit. He that is abhorred of the Lord shall fall therein.
All right. So you're abhorred of the Lord, not because you're abhorred of the Lord. You're abhorred of the Lord because you're already in. Right? That's God didn't say, I hate you, you're going to go into this pit. No, he hates everything in the pit. And so you experience that because of what you're doing. It's not the cause of what you're doing. We got to be careful with that. People who are not skilled in the Word will use verses like this, say, oh, you see, God made you do it. God put us, God did that. No. Let's back up. Let's back that train up a little bit. Jake, you still in Proverbs? How about 5:5?
Her feet go down to death. Her steps take hold on hell.
All right. You can see he wrote that in there too as you're going through this. No, not to defile myself, for I remembered an old writing that I had seen, which said, her steps take hold on hell. So I shut mine eyes, because I would not be bewitched with her looks. Then she railed on me and went my way. This goes beyond just this. And let me give you an example. And I haven't spoken about this probably in years. Some of you may have seen me doing this, other than when I'm preaching. Usually I'm not talking to anybody. That's me in my mind saying, away, Satan, get away, get away, get away. Get away. I know I'm battling. And I can remember for years, I don't do it as much now. I think I can do it. I think I do it not the same. I shouldn't say it's not that I don't do it. It's not the same. It doesn't look the same for me anymore. I can do it in my mind. Whereas before I had to see myself shooing this whatever it was that was trying to get me and drag me somewhere. No, get away. Get away. Now I generally do it in my mind. I'll start quoting scripture. I'll start praying. I'll start doing other things to thwart the attack. Right? That's just how I do it. I can share with you this is my experience, and it works for me. It works for me. I mean, not all the time. Sometimes I don't just try to thwart it. I just jump right in and go along. Right? That's when I'm in that sinful state, and then you have to get back out and clean yourself up, and which of course is God's forgiveness and asking for confession and repentance. But most of the time, that's it. Why? So that because I don't want to be bewitched. I don't want to be bewitched. And you shouldn't either. You should know that the world is trying to do that. Hey, that music's okay. No, that music's not okay. Hey, that's all right if I just see a little of that. No, it's not all right if you saw a little of that. No, it's okay if I hang around with those people. No, it's not okay if you hang around with those people. That's it. Those things are bewitching. That's what it is. And in the application, in the real world sense, that's what it is. You hang around with hellions, you're going to experience hell. That's the deal. We just might as well just cut it right quick. All right. Well, we still have not gotten through this. Maybe I might need another week. Any last thoughts? We're not going to finish this. Erica.
I remember just personally, I won't get into details, but I had a situation where stubborn me, hard-headed me, right? We have those times with the Lord, and God offered a way of escape for me, and I purposely, I didn't even take it. I knew it was there, I knew it was the Lord, but I didn't take it, and then, consequences fell for that. So
That's absolutely true.
I just think it's interesting, even if we know, because we can be drawn away from the Lord, we talk about that and sing about that in church, and it's I'm just well, why couldn't I be obedient, and it's just I don't know, it's hard to explain, it can just happen, that quick, and you're just, I don't know, I was so stubborn, but without that, I wouldn't have my voice, and they're a blessing, and they're from the Lord, and I know that, so, not getting into too many details, but yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just a little.
So I heard a message when we lived up in Maine from an evangelist his name is John Van Gelderen. He's out from the folks out in, I think it's in Michigan, in the School of Missionary Training or College of Missionary Training, something like that. And he preached a message which I could tell you. I'd tell you exactly. It left that much of a mark on me. He preached a message about in Scripture where that passage, and I can't remember the exact passage it was. Yes, the way of escape. And do you remember the text in the Bible where
Corinthians 10:13, I can't remember.
all right, so charge, Corinthians 10:13. Someone get there first or second? Someone go to first, someone go to second. But it's all about, it's the thing where, hey, God doesn't leave us without a way of escape. We always have a way of escape. It's up to us to take it. Go ahead.
1 Corinthians 10:13, there have no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man, but God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it.
There you go. How do you think Christ, who was tempted in all ways like us, yet never sinned. You know what that means in his humanity? He always took the way of escape. So that means he did that in his humanity, so can we. He didn't do that and say, I need a little God juice this time to make it through this. No, we have this. And we should, that's what I mean by this verse was one of those kind of verses for me. And then hearing that message, like, I'll never get that. The example he used was, you know, when you're driving and you're coming down those mountain ramps or the mountain highways, and it's 7% grade, next 6 miles, trucks only in right lane, 50 miles an hour. And then you see the off-ramps that are there just to, and they go off and they're all full of gravel. And sometimes you see 2 tire tracks, and then they stop, right? And that's the blessing ones. That means that it actually worked. But the idea is you're out of control, and there's no way you cannot get your foot on the brake. For some reason, something's not working. You take the way of escape. And it stops you safely. So you don't have to keep going on that road. So you can just keep going on the road, or you can take the way of escape. Well, I'll never forget that. I mean, for me, it was like, that was one of those, that's great. I could do that every time. It's sad that I don't. But in theory, I can, because you know why? God did. Jesus actually did it. He was in all ways tempted as we are. Covetous, lust, lying, anger, everything. That's why the high priest tempted as us. But he always took the way of escape. We can take the way of escape. It's available to us. All right, Charles, go ahead and close this.